Hello everyone and welcome to this lecture. My name is Burhanuddin and in this lecture we are going to master the TextView UI component. So let's just open the Android Studio and create a new project. Start a new project, select the empty activity and click on the next button. Now I will name this project as TextView app. Click on finish. And let's just wait for the gradles to be built. Now, till the Gradle is getting built, let's just talk about the text view. So what are the text view? So text view are the components that are used to represent a text value. Okay, so if you are not able to see this, so click on this project and then make sure the Android is selected from this drop down. Okay, so now let's just go to the activity main, which is our layout activity, and as you can see inside this component tree, that constraint layout is our base layout and there is already a text view placed at the center. But for now what I want is just to remove this text view and change this constraint layout. We will talk about the layouts and different types of layouts in the upcoming lectures, but for now let's just change this constraint layout to the relative layout. So what will I do is just switch to the code view right here and change this constraint layout to the relative layout like that. And I just want to remove this text view. Okay, so let's just switch back to the design view and now let's just drag and drop this text view right here. As you can see, now my text view is dropped right here. I just want to give it a little bit of margin, but we will move on to that attribute later. Let's now talk about the attributes one by one. Let's move on, turn our focus to this attribute section. Okay, so now as we can see, the first attribute we see here is ID. So what is an ID? So ID is used to uniquely identify every UI elements. Now, and why we use ID? We use ID to interact with our UI elements from our Java code. So one thing you have to remember that we need to make every element a unique element. We need to give a unique ID so that we can use that ID to interact with that UI element with our Java code. Okay, so the next attribute is layout width. So as you can see now, let's just reselect the component and now layout width. Layout width specifies the width of our UI component. As you can see, when I click on this drop down, we have another value for my layout width, that is match parent. So let's just click on the match parent and see what happens. So now as I click on the match parent, you can see that the width of my text view actually matches the parent width. So now you may ask that what is the parent? So as you can see in the component tree, the parent of my text view is actually relative layout. So we can say that relative layout and the text view shares the parent-child relationship between them. So when I change the width to the match parent, it actually matches to the width of its parent, that is relative layout. So now what is wrap content? So let's just click on the wrap content and see what happens. As you can see now, the width of my text view is again changed to the width of its content. That means the width of the text view will be changed dynamically based on the size of their content. So if I change the content of my text view, the width should be changed accordingly to the content. So if I write anything in here, and press the enter key, as you can see now the width of my text view is changed based on the content. So let's just remove this width and let's just set the width to the match parent. And now let's talk about the layout height attribute. The layout height attribute is same as the layout width attribute, but instead of width it will change the layout height. So if I do the match parent, now you may know that it will change the it will match the height of its parent. Okay, so now let's just talk about some of the other attributes. So if you are unable to see all of this attribute, just do one thing, that you may see a view all attribute text right here. So just click on it and you will be able to see all of the attributes. So now let's talk about the margin attribute. The margin attribute is used to add space outside of the element. So for that, just click on the search button and search for the margin. Okay, now as you can see, the layout margin attribute is right here. The first one, layout margin, will specify the margin whose value will be common for each and every side of the element. So if I write 50 here, and don't forget to specify the unit which is the DP, that is density independent pixel. So if I click enter, now you can see there is a 50 dp margin from every side of the element. We can also alter each and every side of the element individually by altering these values right here. So if I want the layout margin on the top to be not 50 dp, I want it to be 20 dp. So as I click enter, now you can see that the margin from the top is changed to 20 dp. Okay, so let's talk about the other attributes. Let's talk about the padding. So what is padding? Padding is used to add some space inside of the element. So here is the major difference between the margin and the padding. The margin attribute is used to add some space outside of the element, but the padding attribute is used to add some space inside of the element. Okay, so let's just add, before adding the padding, let's just add some text inside this text view component to view the padding. Okay, so let's just enter, I am a Android developer, and let's just click enter, and as you can see now my text is up here. Okay, so now let's just check out the padding attribute. Okay, all the attributes are same as the margin, but instead of adding space outside the element, it will add space inside the element. So for now, let's just try and add padding on every side of the text view to 100 dp and click on enter. And now as you can see that there is 100 dp padding on each and every side of the element. We can also alter this thing side by side like this. If I want the padding on the left to be 50 dp and not 100 dp, I can just type it right here and click on enter. And now as you can see, the padding on the left side is changed to the 50 dp. Okay, so now let's just try and change the background color of this element. Okay, so let's just search for the background attribute right here. Okay, now as you can see, there is a color picker icon right here. So when I click on this, it allows me to choose any color of my choice and set it as a background. But there are some other ways of setting this also. For example, if I click this icon right here, it will open up this menu for me. And here from here I can set the background to be any drawable, that is resource file, or I can set it to any color. Okay, I can also add new color or any new resource module by clicking on this plus icon right here. So let's just select this orange color right here and click on OK. So now as you can see, the background of my text view is changed to the orange color. But if I don't want to do that, what I can do is I can explicitly specify the value through the hex code. So now what is hex code? So hex code is a 6-digit binary code. So hex code is a 6-digit RGBA code which we can use to specify the value of the color. The value of the hex code starts with the hashtag. Okay, so what is RGBA? So RGBA stands for red, green and blue. So if you see this color picker icon right here, if I click on that, you can see that there is a RGBA values given for that. And for the white color, the RGBA color values is 255, 255, 255. That is, the value for red color will be of 255, value of green color will be of 255, and value of that is blue color will be 255. So if I want to specify hex code implicitly, I can type that, for example, I can write 0098F6 and click on enter and see what color it is. As you can see now, it is the value for the blue color. Okay, so make sure you play around with this attribute a little bit to understand it better. Okay, so now let's move on and try to change the value of this text color. So for that, there is an attribute known as text color. Okay, so as you can see, alongside the text color, there are several other attributes also. There is text highlight color, text hint, and text color link. But for now, we are not going to use these attributes, and just click on this text color attribute, and I'm gonna also provide the hex color value for that, and I'm going to choose the white color for it. So for the hex value for the white color is FFF, and click on enter. It doesn't matter that you write on the caps or without the caps, the value will be same. Okay, so now let's just try to change the theme of this text view. I don't like the style and the font of this text view, so let's just try to change the theme of the text view. So for that, we have another attribute known as theme. So just type in theme here, and as you can see now, from this drop down, I can choose the individual values of the theme, or I can apply a theme and a particular theme to that. So for that, I will click on this icon to pick a resource, and I can choose any of the theme right here. Okay, so let's just select this and line and click on OK. As you can see now, the appearance of my text view is changed. But one thing we need to make sure right now, that whenever we play around with this theme attribute or any other text appearance attribute, we must try and run our app, because sometimes what happens that we might mistakenly change the value of a private attribute and then our app crashes. Okay, so whenever you change this and play around with these attributes or change anything on the design palette, just make sure to try and run your app. So let's just try and run our app and see what happens. As you can see now, my application crashes when I try to open it, and that might be because of the theme attribute. But let's just open the logcat and check what is the reason and what is the error that crashed my app. So open the logcat and switch the filter from verbose to error, and we might be looking for the line of a code which says exception. Okay, so there is a runtime exception right here, and if we see, it says that there is an error, binary XML file line 10, error inflating class text view. So this will be this might be caused because of the theme that I changed of the text view. So let's just remove the theme attribute and see what happens. Let's just click on the text view and select the theme attribute and just remove this theme, and let's just try again to rerun the app. As you can see now, my application is now perfectly running fine. So let's just do one thing. Instead of this blue color, let's just change the background color to the color, to the accent color, actually color accent, or to the primary dark. Color primary, okay. So as you can see, the reason for changing this color to this color primary is because I want my background of my text view to look same as the color of my action bar. So that is the reason that I changed the color to this color primary. So by the way, the value of this color primary is specified in the color.xml file residing inside my ref folder value, and you can see right here the value of color primary is #6200EE. So basically, if I want to change the value of color primary, I just need to change this value, and the color value of color primary that value will be changed everywhere where I specified color primary. Okay, so let's just get back to the activity main. Okay, so now let's take a look at some other attributes. Let's try to change the style of this attribute. I want this text to be a little bit bolder. So let's just search for the text style attribute right here. And now, as you can see, the current style is specified as bold, normal, but I want the text to appear as bold. So I will just click on the check this bold checkbox, and when I click on apply, now you can see that my text is little bit bold. Okay, so now let's just increase the font size, and for that just type in size here, just select the attribute and type in size here, and as you can see, I can change the text size from right here, and let's just set the text size to be 30 sp. Okay, so now just remember one thing: when we are specifying the margin and padding of the element, we were using the dp as a unit. Okay, but for the size we use sp, that is scale point, as a unit. So now let's just remove this padding to make it look a little better. Let's just put padding of 10 dp everywhere. Oh, sorry, 10 dp. Okay, just remove this 50 dp. Okay. Now let's take a look at some other attributes. Let's just remove this margin also. Margin and specify it to be 0 dp from everywhere. Okay, it looks better now. Let's just try and run our app to make sure everything is working completely fine. As you can see now, my app is up and running. Okay, so now let's just look at some other attributes. Let's just check out the alpha attribute. Type in alpha here. Now, what does alpha do? So alpha is used to measure the visibility or the opacity of our element. The value for the alpha ranges from between 0 to 1. So if I specify 0.3 and click on enter, as you can see the text view element is now a little bit opaque, and basically the alpha attribute is used to set the transparency of our element. So if I specify instead of 0.3, if I specify 0.9 here, as you can see right now, as you can see now, my text view element is more visible right now. Okay, so as I go lowering down the value, the less visible and the more transparent my UI element will be. Okay, so let's just put the alpha value back to 1. Okay, so now let's just take a look at some other attributes. Let's just check out the visibility element attribute. Type here visibility. As you can see right here, we have 3 values of the visibility attribute. The first one is visible, then invisible, and gone. Now we can understand that visible will make the attribute or any element visible. But what is the major difference between these two attributes, that is invisible and gone, is when I click on visible, you cannot see the attribute, right? But when I click on gone, you can still not see the attribute. But if you might notice something, that when the value of the attribute was invisible, the height and width and the position of the attribute was still on the layout screen. That is, the layout is only not visible to the user, but its position and its coordinate are still on the screen. But when I was clicking onto the gone, the layout is now completely gone from my design palette. Okay, so let's just change it back to the visible. Okay, select this. Select this and change it to the visible. So now my layout is again visible. So now let's take a look at the gravity attribute. Make sure it is selected. Okay, so now let's just check this gravity attribute. Now let's just try these attributes one by one. When I check this bottom and click on apply, you can see that the text is now at the bottom of my screen. So that means that this gravity attribute specifies the position of my text inside my text view attribute. So when I click on center, as you can see now, the text is now at the center, but it is still at the bottom because the bottom attribute is also selected. So that means I am setting the value of my text view to be at the center but at the bottom of my screen. So if I deselect the bottom and click on apply, as you can see now, the value of my text view is now at the center of my text view element. Okay, so these were some attributes. These were some okay, so these were some attributes I found important to let you know. So let's just try to play around these all attributes and don't worry about mastering all of them. When you will learn all of them automatically as you progress into this app development field. Okay, so now let's just try to create a layout in which there is a text right here starting from the left, then there is a paragraph at the center, and there is some text at the bottom. Okay, so let's just try and create that kind of layout. So what I need, first of all, let's just remove this height from the match parent to the wrap content. Okay, so now I want the text on the left side of the screen, starting from the left side of the screen. So what will I do? First, I will remove the padding from the left, as it will not allow my gravity attribute to align the text to the left. So click on the padding and remove the left padding to 0 dp. Click on enter. Now still my text is at the center because my gravity attribute has been set to the center. Now let's just click on this and uncheck it and check it to the left. As you can see now, my text is right now starting from the is aligning from the left side. Now what I want is another attribute and put it to the center. So what will I do? Just drag it right here and put it right here. But as you can see now, this attribute is on the top of my text view attribute, that is which consists of I am an Android developer. I don't want that. I want this text view element to be at the bottom of this text view 1. Okay, so what will I do? I will switch to the code view, and as we are using the relative layout, I need to specify that this attribute is going to be set on the bottom of this text view attribute. So let's just change the ID of this text view and change it to the text1. Okay, and give this text view an ID of text2. Now I want to set this attribute at the bottom of text1. So what will I do? That type layout, and now as I type layout, you may the autocomplete feature of the Android will show you certain amounts or different types of attributes that we can use with this layout. But what I want right now is this layout below. So what will this do? It will here we will specify that below which element I want my layout to be. So here I can specify that I want this layout to be on the bottom of the ID text1. Remember when I told you what is ID? ID is used to uniquely identify each and every element. So here I am uniquely identify my first text view element, that is text view 1. So this attribute, as I specified this attribute, now this attribute will put my text view 2 at the bottom of the text view 1. So let's just switch back to the design view, and now as you can see that this text view 2 is at the bottom of my text view 1. So what let's just expand its width to the match parent. Okay, and try to give it a height of a match parent. Okay, but wait, I want another attribute at the bottom, so let's just change its match parent to wrap content. Okay, and let's just drag and drop another text view, and as you can see now, it is again on the top of my first text view, that is text view 1. So now I want this text view on the bottom of my text view 2. So let's just again switch to the code view, change the ID to text view text3, and specify the attribute layout bottom, layout below, and I want it to be on below text view 2. So now if I change to the text view as a design view, you can see that it is at the bottom of my text view 2. So now if I specify, let's just specify the width to be the match parent and the height of the text view 2 to the match parent, as I want to expand it and this text view 3 to be at the bottom. So now as you can see that as I set the height of this text view 2 to the match parent, it my text view 3 gets invisible from my screen. That is because we specify that this text view 2 will take the entire height of the match parent, but we didn't want that. So I cannot assign the layout height to be match parent to the text view 2. So what we can do now? So we can do one thing, that instead of assigning the layout height to be match parent, we can assign the layout weight, I am talking about weight, to be certain amount, which will specify that this layout is bigger than its neighbor elements. So how we can do that? So relative layout doesn't allow us to specify width, but we can do that with the linear layout. So now let's just change this relative layout to the linear layout. Don't worry about the layouts right now, because in the upcoming lecture we are going to learn about these layouts. So change it to the linear layout, and now let's just remove this. Let's just first switch to the design view, or we can also choose this preview icon to see the preview, and as we make changes in the code, we will show that changes inside this preview section. So now as I change to the linear layout, you can see that I am unable to see all of the three text, all of the rest of the that I am unable to see these two text views now. So what has happened? The thing is that as I change it to the relative layout, I must need to specify the orientation of my orientation of my linear layout. So there are two kind of orientations in my linear layout, that is vertical and horizontal. Currently the orientation is of my linear layout is set to the horizontal by default. So that is the reason that I am unable to see other layouts. As you can, if I turn the layout width of my TextView 1 from match parent to wrap content, now as you can see that the other two layouts are residing next to this linear layout, residing next to the TextView 1. So I need to change the orientation of my parent layout, that is linear layout, from horizontal to vertical. So what will I do? Let's just change this again to the match parent, and now let's add the attribute orientation and change it to vertical instead of horizontal. Now you can see that we can see the other two text views right here. Okay, so now we need to specify the weight attribute to this text view 1. So what we'll do, just click on this and type weight. Now as you can see, the layout attribute is showing by the Android's autocomplete feature. So click on this and enter any value. You can start from ranging 0 to 999. So I will specify just 1. And now as you can see that my text 3 is at the bottom of the screen, and the rest of the screen is covered up by the text view 2. So let's just change the background color of this text view to individually identify them. So I will type background, and now I will change it to color prime accent for the middle one, and for the bottom one I will choose color primary dark. So let's just type background, now I'll choose color primary dark. So now you can see the difference. Let's just change the height from the wrap content to a certain amount in dp. Let's just put 50 dp height. Okay, so now we can see some height here. Oops. Now we need to center this text. Okay, so let's just apply a gravity attribute right in TextView 3, and I will type gravity, and I will type center. This will automatically center the text to both center horizontally and centered vertically. Okay, now let's just change the font color. So I will type in text color and change it to white, that is FFF. Let's just make the text look a little bit bigger also. So I will type text size, click on it, and let's just set it to be 20 sp. Okay, I am at the bottom. Okay, let's make it bold also. So we have attribute known as text style, and make it bold. So now let's just reduce. We don't need these attributes right now because we are no longer using the relative layout, so we can remove them. And now let's just reduce the text size of my heading, and I will change it to 20 maybe. Okay, and let's make it 25, and instead of bold I want them to be italic. Okay, so now let's just turn our focus to this center TextView 2. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to add some padding inside this text view. I cannot add margin here because if I add margin, it will add some space before this text view element. So there will be space between the text view 1 and text view 2. But I don't want that. I want to add inside the text view 2 so that there is a space between the text view and the content of the text view itself. So let's just add some padding, and that will be of the top. Padding top, that will be start top, and let's just add padding of 20 dp maybe. Okay, that's fine. Now let's just add padding on the left side, and we specify that with the attributes padding start. Okay, we can also use padding padding on the left. With that, you can see it is showing me an error that padding start was supported on the version of API 17, older versions of API 17. Okay, but that means it was supported on the older version, and from the newer version we must use padding left. Okay, let's just change the text color to 00F699. That's not visible, so let's just change it to blue. We can specify the value like this also. Okay, color FFF. Okay, that's fine, and also make it a little bit bigger. So I'll say text size 15 sp. Okay, that's fine, and let's add some text here. Hello there. I am an Android developer. Save it, and let's just try to run our application now and see how is it looking. Okay, so my application is now up and running, and as you can see now, my text view 1 is at the top, my text view 2 is at the middle, and my text view 3 is at the bottom. So that's it for today's lecture, and in the next lecture we will learn about the button UI element.